Meanwhile, a new report by the Centre for Development and Enterprise proposes radical new measures to turn South Africa's special economic zones into instruments that drive new investment and create jobs. SEZs focus on labor-intensive, export-driven manufacturing activities aimed at bringing in foreign capital. Centre for Development and Enterprise Executive Director Anne Bernstein joins us now for greater perspective. Thank you so much for your time, Anne. Now, firstly, highlight the importance of special economic zones for the economy of South Africa.
Well, I think it's common cause among all of us that South Africa is struggling with two big challenges: stagnant growth at less than 1% per annum for the last decade, and a catastrophically high unemployment rate. And we think special economic zones could be used to help unblock where the country is at the moment. Now, we have a zone policy, and zones are just geographic areas where different rules apply from the rest of the economy. And you try to deal with the problems investors and businesses have in the zone to see if it works.
Okay.
That's the big idea, really. And we're saying that South Africa's zones, we have 12 designated, of which only 4 have attracted real investment. But if you look at how much public money has been spent, we've spent about 27, 28 billion rand in building the infrastructure for these zones. And we've only attracted 31 billion in new investment from elsewhere. And a lot of the firms that have gone to the zones in South Africa have not been totally new investments. They've been South African firms that have relocated.
Okay.
So we're really failing to make the most of these zones. So we have two big proposals. The one is, let's turn Kucha in the eastern, in Old Port Elizabeth, which is the oldest and biggest, Gqeberha. I've been practicing my click, but it isn't working today. So that's the oldest and biggest zone. It has about, they claim the number of companies, but it's only sort of got about 10,500 jobs.
Yeah.
And if you go visit, there's Bearveld, and there's a port there as well. We're saying, let's turn this into a zone where we test out our capacity as a country for low-skill manufacturing. Can we attract foreign investors who know how to do this, who know how to get into global value chains? Let's try it out.
Yeah.
Now, the key thing about special economic zones is they have to be special.
Yes.
So we're proposing a number of changes, mainly around labor laws and not wholesale labor reform, but some changes so that you can have factory level bargaining about wages, about conditions, about overtime, about productivity, about bonuses, so that we can be globally competitive. That's the one big proposal.
Yeah.
Do you want to discuss that?
Yes, actually, because I mean, it's quite interesting because I mean, we have these special economic zones and clearly they have not gone far enough in contributing to economic growth. And you say that they actually should be run by the private sector, but also you do need to attract the private sector. They need to have appetite for their involvement. So just talk to me about those specific changes that would need to happen on a policy level to create that appetite for the private sector.
Great. So we're saying, rather than state-run special zones, which have turned out to not be very special, the growing trend overseas, in Turkey, in Colombia, in the Dominican Republic, and elsewhere, is to employ firms that specialize in setting these zones up, in running them, and in attracting investment. Let the private sector take the risk. Why waste government money? You need some government incentives and infrastructure, but let the private sector manage these zones to get more investment and let them take the risk. So that's one part. Who manages the zone to make it really fly? And it's not South African zones are really sort of crawling. We need to get them to fly with tens of thousands of jobs and new investment.
Yeah.
So the second is, how do you attract investors? Now, this is low-skill manufacturing and toy assembly and electronic assembly. This is a cutthroat business around the world. So we have to be globally competitive, not just a little bit better than outside the zone, but really globally competitive. And here we have a number of recommendations of what to do. Labor costs and conditions really matter. We're saying that basic health and safety must be enforced. So no change there. But a whole lot of other things, these factories are going to need more flexibility. And that's where we're talking about changes to the Labor Relations Act, about dismissals, but also that collective bargaining agreements, which are a real problem in South Africa when they are extended to people who weren't around the table. We're saying those agreements should not apply in Kucha. There are a few other issues. We want it privately run, as you're saying, and we want some flexibility because we need to bring managers in who know how to do this. We haven't done this before. We need managers with expertise to run these factories and to get us into global value chains.
Yeah.
This would be new for South Africa. So it's a big experiment. We might be wrong, but we're saying it's worth a shot, especially in a region of the country where there are lots and lots of unemployed people, and we could be globally competitive as a place to locate the factories. So that's the first big proposal we're making.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because in the report you've also said that the most successful SEZs focus on export-driven manufacturing. How would that play out in a tariff-heavy trade landscape, as you're talking about the fact that we need to be globally competitive?
Well, we're going to have to see what that global tariff-heavy environment looks like. It's not crystal clear at the moment.
Yeah.
We will need to bring in materials for manufacturers without the rebates, and we're arguing for that as well. But so far, the garment industry is not part of Liberation Day, which Mr. Trump will announce today, and long may that last. So there is still a window for us. We must take it. And the results could be really impressive if we get this right. If you think of Mauritius, from 22% unemployment, in 15, 17 years, they moved to full employment. You think of China, you think of Bangladesh. Every time somebody says it's too late, another country moves into the value chain and gets a lot of jobs and value add.
Yeah. Well, interesting that you've also identified Kucha as the SEZ that would be ideal as an experimental setting. I am a girl from Gqeberha, and so thank you so much.
I need a lesson in the clicks.
Exactly.
So I can say it, but not today.
Thank you so much for your time and for your insights there. That was Bernstein, Executive Director at the Center for Development and Enterprise.